And we are back on Sportsman Radio. I'm your host, Chris Shanafelt, and I'm now joined by former NFL defensive end for the Los Angeles Oakland Raiders, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Washington Redskins. He is currently the senior director for the NFL Players Association. He is Nolan Harrison III. Nolan, how's it going, sir?
Doing good, Chris. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I want to start this interview off by actually talking about your high school days, as you grew up in a town that is very close to where I live now, and that's Homewood Flossmoor. That's where you attended high school, at Homewood Flossmoor High School, is what I should have said, where you participated in 3 sports in football, wrestling, and track. What was it about those 3 sports that interested you and made you participate in them?
Well, I'd say in the beginning it was all about football. You know, growing up in Chicago, growing up in the Midwest, and we moved from Chicago out to the suburbs, out to Flossmoor when I was in grade school. So I'm a huge diehard Bears fan, and so I wanted to play football when I was old enough. But I was very tall and very skinny. So the coaches, when I went out for football as a sophomore, the coaches decided, hey, you need to be able to take on some of these guys that are bigger and stronger than you. Why don't you join the wrestling team? It'll help you to be able to use other people's leverage against you. It'll be a great off-season workout to get yourself in shape, do some cross-training. So I did that, and of course, being tall and long, I wasn't exactly the most artistic runner. So the coaches persuaded me to go out for track, and I ended up running the 400 meter relay and the mile relay to teach me how to run and run properly with these long arms and long legs. So that's really the reason I became a 3-sport athlete, all of it to make myself better at football.
All right, Nolan, I'm currently a senior in high school, and I'm entering my 3rd wrestling season. Can you tell us a few memories that you have of your wrestling days at Homewood Flossmoor?
Oh yeah, I mean there were many. From the little things that back then we used to wear diaper pins on our varsity jackets to represent how many pins we had. So of course, you wanted to be the one walking around school or walking around the area, going to the other gyms with the most pins. So I just remember how special that was when I got pins all the way around, completely around my varsity jacket. So little things like that, up to really what it takes to be a wrestler, and to be a wrestler is a completely different and unique athletic skill and mindset. It's really about you and what you do all the time on the mat. It's about strategy and thinking ahead, but you have to do that in one of the most intense spaces of time that exist in sports. So I think it really helped me develop a lot of my performing under pressure, really beating adversity when I think I'm physically done, where I could pull out and do just that much more. My work ethic in sports, all of that stems from wrestling. And of course, some of the real good ones, when you get a good slam on somebody, when you get them in a cradle lock and they can't move and they got to tap out, all those things are also pretty darn fun.
Yeah, I love wrestling, man. I mean, when you lose, you can't blame anyone but yourself, and that's great. I mean, when you win, you credit yourself, you credit your coaches, but when you lose, you always have that mentality where it's like, well, it's my fault. I gotta work on this, and I'll get the win next time.
That's right.
All right, Homewood Flossmoor High School retired your jersey number back in 2009. Does that mean anything to you? And if it does, what does that mean to you?
It means everything to me. High school was actually a pretty darn cool time for me. So, anytime that you do enough on the field or on the mat or on the track to where people acknowledge you by retiring your number, that's a pretty big deal. So it means the world to me. And, for my kids to be able to have been there and see it, for my father, my mother to have seen it, both still living in the Flossmoor area, it really means a lot. My friends got a chance to come out. Other former players who I played against in the NFL, who are from the area, played in a charity basketball game at halftime, is when I got my jersey retired. So it really, really does mean a lot. And I'm actually standing in my office right here in Washington, D.C., staring at the plaque that has it up there. I still remember our chant. I still remember my teammates, and a lot of my teammates and I are still friends. So it's really special.
Awesome. You attended Indiana University. What was it about that school that you decided to go there for?
Well, IU offered me a very unique experience. The school itself is phenomenal. I really wanted to go into business. I ended up majoring in something else, but it was one of the top business schools in the country that was recruiting me. It was one of those schools that at that time we were a mid-range school, so a lot of the other schools were saying, "Hey, we're gonna work you. You might play and start in your junior, senior year," because everything was about seniority back then in college. And I didn't see myself sitting on the bench for 3-4 years if I redshirted, and then just to play my senior year. What would happen if I got hurt, or all those kind of things. So Indiana, they told me, "Hey, we're gonna bulk you up," because I was still very tall and skinny, and you're gonna play after your freshman year. And they weren't wrong. So I thought that was going to be a great opportunity. Number one, a great school. Number two, I got a chance to play and really enjoy the college experience, getting out there and playing and entertaining the crowd and my parents and my fans.
You guys are listening to Sportsman Radio. I'm your host, Chris Schanfeld, talking with former NFL defensive end Nolan Harrison III. Nolan, you were drafted in the 6th round of the 1991 NFL Draft. Can you tell us about your draft day?
Oh, wow. My draft day was a little unique. Back then there was 12 rounds, and the first day really only covered probably 4 to 5 rounds. It still was at that time when you could see the guys getting drafted across the ticker, across the bottom, but ESPN was still young, and Mel Kiper had made some predictions. My body type was very unique, and it was something that they thought was on the horizon. By the time I was getting ready to get drafted, I was 6'6", 285 pounds. And Ted Washington and myself, we were both drafted. We were both very similar body types, and Mel Kiper had said that this was the prototype of the defensive lineman going forward. Tall guys that are big, and 285 at that time was big for an interior lineman, who could get up the field and put their hands up so these quarterbacks like Elway, the tall quarterbacks like Elway, Marino, and Kelly couldn't just, gun the ball, down the field. We need to get some hands up and get some pressure and get some balls batted down. So we were supposed to be the prototype guys. I ended up falling into the next day, and I was drafted by the Raiders as their 4th pick in the draft behind Tom Marinovich was the first-round draft pick. Nick Bell out of Iowa was the 2nd pick, and then Rocket Ishmael was the 3rd pick, and I was picked 4th. So I thought I was going to get drafted in the 1st or 2nd round. Had a big party, and they had the big sheet on the front of the house. Hey, Harrison, congratulations and all that stuff, and it didn't happen. And I got to tell you, that was probably one of the most disappointing yet exciting moments. My friends and family there, don't worry, I'm sure you're going to get drafted in the next round. But man, when the Raiders called, Al Davis called that next day, that first thing in the morning, and said, "Hey, how do you feel about being a Raider?" It all went away. So it was great.
And you mentioned Al Davis. What was your relationship like with the late Al Davis?
Oh, it was great. It was great. I had when you worked hard for Al Davis, and when you really do the things that you're supposed to do as a player and as a citizen in the community, good things happen to you, and he looks out for you. I mean, the guy wrote my letter of recommendation to law school. I ended up leaving and going to Pittsburgh for salary cap reasons. But you have to understand that things are a business when you get to this level, and that was one of the eye-opening and awakening moments for me. But one of the things that he said to me as I was leaving, he called me, left me a message, and never forget it. He said, no matter what, you will always be a Raider. And, that's the reason why so many players, former players, who, really revere him as an owner. Business is business. But he did have a really positive reputation for looking out for the players who did the right things and really worked hard for the organization.
I see in your 2nd season in the NFL that you started all 14 games, and you even had your first and only safety in your career. Can you tell us about the play where you forced the safety?
Yeah, that was. I think that was the Seattle game, and to be honest, I should have had a touchdown, but I couldn't get my hands on the ball. So, it was. I think we hit Rick Meyer in the end zone, and the ball was bouncing around, and that time it was in a Seattle Noise Dome, and it was on turf. So that ball wasn't going flat when it hit the grass, so it was bouncing all over the place like one of those agility balls. And I was the last person to get my hands on it, and I just couldn't get control of it in the end zone to get the touchdown. But it was still a pretty exciting moment to get my first safety and my only safety.
I bet. And you mentioned the time where you went to Pittsburgh due to salary cap reasons. When you first went to Pittsburgh, was there anything that you had to change to the way you played football?
Yeah, I went from a 4-3 to a 3-4. I was familiar with playing in a 3-4 in college. We played that at that time in Indiana. So it was after being with the Raiders for 6 years already, it wasn't completely foreign to me. So that was really a big adjustment. The Steelers wanted me a little bit bigger, so I bulked up to about 305 pounds because the Steeler defense, all three linemen, the two ends and the nose guard, are more like interior linemen. They like them to be big nose guard type players, and so that the linebackers can be free to escape and scrape and make plays. So I had to bulk up a little bit more, but beyond that, nothing else. Football's football when you get to that level, and I'd already played enough of the defenses and knew the techniques. I was a veteran, so it was just changing schemes. But playing in Pittsburgh was a great experience.
Yeah, you spent 3 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then you went on to Washington with the Redskins, where you guys had a pretty talented group with yourself, Deion Sanders, Andre Reed. There's just a lot of talent on that team, but you guys ended the season 8-8. Why do you think that was?
I got to tell you, it was, at that time they did he spent some time really going out and trying to recruit to get some really good players so he could make a Super Bowl push in his first, actually it was his second year as the owner. Dan Snyder did. So it was actually really cool to be sitting in the room with the rookie Champ Bailey and the rookie LeVar Arrington and the veteran Darrell Green and Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith and I playing on the line together. I mean, but the others like Dina Stubblefield and Big Dan Williams and Marco Coleman. We all played line together. Some of the up and comers like Indy Kalu were rookies and young guys, and Kennard Lang was a young guy. So it was just a great experience. You look at the other side of the ball, Andre Reed and Irving Fryer and Jeff George, and it was just such a great experience for my last year playing with these future Hall of Famers, these Pro Bowlers, all of us kind of like mercenaries all coming together. But unfortunately, because our kicker tore his quad in the preseason, we lost a lot of games because we couldn't get field. I think we went through 3 or 4 kickers during that season, lost games by field goals or couldn't make extra points. And the 2 teams that we beat during the year ended up playing in the Super Bowl, and that was the Ravens' first Super Bowl win. We're sitting at home going, "Oh my God, we killed these guys." So that's how football works. You just never know.
That was your 10th and last season playing in the NFL, and I know nowadays there's players that are playing in the league for longer than 12 or 13 years. But Nolan, why did you decide to retire after 10 seasons in the NFL?
Well, there comes a point. We all would love to be able to do what we want to do for the rest of our lives, what we love to do for the rest of our lives. But my body was starting to get beat up. The injuries were starting to take its toll. I wasn't healing as fast as I used to, so that diminishes your value from a team perspective. But then as some other things started happening, as when you're starting your whole career, then all of a sudden, even though I'm playing behind future Hall of Famer Bruce Smith, when you're that late in your career and you're getting injured, I've already graduated. I'd already worked for Northwestern Mutual. I had a backup plan. I was set to be able to do something else after football. Football didn't define me. So when it ceased to be fun, and when it ceased to be doing more damage to me than good, I made the decision that 10 was a pretty darn good number. 3.5 is the average. I made it to 10. Most people don't make it that far. It's time for me to let it go. I just had my daughter and my first kid in 1999, and I was out in Washington. I missed her first steps, and I missed her first words. I had to do it from webcam. The original, very early webcams, not like the cool ones we have now. So, there was a lot of factors that came into place that made this deciding. I think it's time for me to let it go, and go on with the rest of my life, which has been a lot.
All right, Nolan, you are now a part of the NFL Players Association. Can you please tell us about your role in the NFLPA?
Well, I'm the senior director of former players. Besides managing our group internally, one of our big roles, besides outreach and membership for our guys, is to provide resources and to help our guys transition from the game of football to being citizens in the community off the field. So our big responsibility is to really help them, whether it's networking for resources, whether during times of CBA advocating to get more benefits for them. That's what we do. So it's a membership-driven organization, and we're really here to provide that kind of resource to help our guys and to get that camaraderie and relink guys back up who are out in the community and maybe have been out for a long time, and to kind of bring them back in the fold. So we were here for all of us as current players. We're also here as former players as one big community.
Nolan, I have one last thing before I let you go, and that is we've seen the replacement rest for 7 weeks, 4 weeks in the preseason and 3 weeks in the regular season. As we know, they didn't do too great at their job. What is your opinion on the job the replacement refs have done this season?
Well, thank goodness it's over.
Oh, yeah.
And the NFL saw the error of their ways by putting those referees on the field without the experience and knowledge needed to protect our players. The biggest thing is that you have these gentlemen out there who are playing the role of scabs that are not at the level of true NFL officials, and that puts our players in harm's way. And to me, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to this organization. Beyond the missed calls, beyond the absolute tragedies of what happened to Green Bay and other teams, you look at the players that got hurt, the players that the game itself got damaged. When you're seeing violence on the field, you're seeing players out of control because they don't feel that the refs are protecting them. All that stuff did a lot to damage the game, and we as players respect the game itself, and we work very hard to try to make sure that the game is safe. And as an association, and as a human being, and as a former player, it was not acceptable what I was seeing. So, like I said, thank goodness we were able to, the officials were able to get a deal with the NFL, get back on the field, and now we have everything is okay in the world of football. And you can yell at the refs for missing a call, but you can't now, like we always do, but you now can't yell at them for being completely incompetent and putting players at risk.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad we got these refs back. Nolan, I really appreciate your time, man. It was an honor to have you on. Hope we could have you on in the future to talk some NFL. Before I let you go, is there anything you'd like to plug on the air for our listeners?
Well, I got to tell you, the Rich Township schools were always, crosstown rivals with us at home in Flossmoor. All the kids that are growing up in the South suburban area of Chicago, I just want to say to you guys, keep reaching for the dreams, keep working hard. School is the most important thing. You're in a great school system. Make sure that you get that going, but keep reaching for your dreams. Everything is out there for you. Use your imagination, use your will, use your desire, and make it happen for yourself. But do it the right way and lead others to help you make it to where you want to go.
Will do. Nolan, maybe next time you're in the area, we could go for some lunch or something, man. I mean, it was an honor speaking to you.
Sounds good. We can meet at Aurelio's Pizza, one of my favorite old spots.
Let's do it. I believe that's the original one, too.
That's right.
Nolan, thanks again, man. Take care.
All right, take care.